The theme music. How better? How
I
fun.
feel so weird that I haven't really gotten to see you in a long time, and we had
I
like 10
know.
minutes to catch up, and now it's like,
Before
okay,
this.
and go.
And go. No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm hype. I miss you very much, and I
I miss
need to
you
come up to
too.
New Haven to
Yeah.
like actually hang out. But
We'll do it soon.
this will work for now.
Yeah, so we were gonna do this in person. Initially, we were gonna be building Legos and just chatting. Melinda was not able to make it up to visit, so we are doing it this way. And I guess, Melinda, for anyone who doesn't know you, who are you? What do you do? Why are you amazing?
Oh Lord, what do I do? This is that's a question. I am a musician on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and in live performance. I've got music on Spotify and iTunes, wherever you want to stream your music, it's probably there. And I make predominantly like folk pop music. I started out in Irish music when I was really young. I was playing in pubs and singing. I play the Irish flute and the whistle, and I got back into folk music when I was on TikTok and the sea shanty trend happened. And then that kind of launched that. And I went on tour last year. It was sold out. It was so much fun. And I've got a show coming up at the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on April 2nd at 7:30. Plug. I've got an album coming out this year. First single comes out February 3rd. You can pre-save it now. It's so exciting to finally be like making the music that makes me really happy. There's a lot of Irish influence in there, but it's also like just very sort of American folk and pop and I don't know. I just these days I'm making music, I'm making films, and I used to act. I was a professional actor in DC for about 3.5 years. Hopefully I'll get back into that at some point. But yeah, so that's me. Just lots of internet and folk music. So it's a good life.
Yeah. And Melinda and I know each other from college.
We do.
We lived together in London when we were studying theater, which was lots of fun.
In our tiny little room.
The tiniest room with like
in the dirtiest house, by the way. Like it was yeah, it was not good. We collected alcohol bottles for some reason, and they were absolutely everywhere. It was not okay.
Well, the worst part was also that we had someone who came in to clean the flat once a week, like the program provided someone, and somehow it was still the dirtiest house that I've ever seen.
It was still brutal, but we lived.
We did.
Yes. Many good memories of us making popcorn in a like pot and then watching the Nutcracker.
Yes.
When
that was one good memory specifically, but
yes, exactly. No, we had a great time there.
Yeah. Cool. So I guess instead of making Legos, what we're gonna do is I found this morning, because I was like, fuck, what are we gonna do since we're not going to be in the same place. I found this list that's just like 21 getting to know you questions that are a little bit more interesting than just like, what's your name? What's your favorite color?
Right.
So we're just going to pop through these and sort of chat about them. The first one, I feel like, Melinda, you kind of just answered, which is, what is the TLDR version of your life?
Yeah. The added portion is I started making YouTube videos when I was 19 and started in music comedy. I was just thinking about that today because we're coming up on 9 years of that channel existing. It's called Google Translate Sings, Twisted Translations, Translator Fails, a bunch of different things. But that was kind of the start of my internet career while I was in college. So while I knew Katie, I had just started doing that. And so that was it's hilarious because my audience now, I would say about 50% of them know that existed, and the other 50% do not. Oh, it's hysterically funny, especially when I first like work with other Irish musicians or other creators that I've met in the last 2 years. A lot of them have no idea, and they're like, "Wait, how did you get started?" And I'm like, let me regale you. It's very entertaining. So
I will never forget, was it our theater history class? I forget which class it was in, where someone brought up the Let It Go Google Translate video, and the teacher pulled it up and like projected it to the class.
Oh,
do you not remember this? Did you block this out of your I just remember you were sitting next to me and you were just like,
I want to die. Probably.
This is what we're watching right now. No, that's great. I love this.
This is fantastic. Oh, I think that was because we had just gotten the word that John Oliver had used the clip, and everyone was like, "Wait, what is that?" And the theater history teacher decided to go up in class. That's what that was. Yeah.
I just remember looking over at you and the look on your face. You were so pale. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, there was a lot. There were a couple of those moments in like college and early on in that time where I just like didn't know how to handle that kind of thing, and these days I'm like, oh Lord, it just kind of
well, I mean, also you've come such a long way since we were at Vassar.
Yeah, you mean you too, literally. Look at us on a stream, on a platform that you have built. It's amazing.
Yeah, and this channel is such a baby. Like, we've been around since July, so this is all like still very fresh and very new. But I mean, I guess the flip side is like, I've been doing theater my whole life. I did musical theater, I did voice, acting, dance. So being in the arts is not that I don't want to say streaming is in the arts, but being in like a performance space in some way is not unusual, but it's definitely been like a learning curve to understand Twitch and the TTRPG community, because I was very much like I play TTRPGs at home with my friends, and I did not engage, like, not intentionally, but just I wasn't really on Twitter. I wasn't really doing any of that stuff. So it's been a pretty wild. How many months has it been since July?
6. Yeah,
6 months.
Yeah, that's incredible, dude. I'm so proud of you. It's so exciting.
Yeah. And that's gonna be my TLDR version of my life, because I don't have much else that I want to share.
Yeah, girl, I got you.
What should they teach you in school but don't?
What did they teach you in school but what?
What should they teach you in school but don't?
How to file your taxes, how
I was gonna say finances.
Retire, there should be a life skills class in like middle school. I do remember tech theater in college was like, he was like, look, not everyone's gonna do tech theater, but at least you'll know how to use power tools and you'll know how to like cut wood and stuff and hang things. So that was like my replica of a life class. Definitely, like, just baseline. Oh, and how to budget, like how to create budgets for your life. Yeah, like a personal finances class in like your freshman year of high school. Yeah,
I feel like also communication, but not in the sense of like, this is how you write a letter, but like actual like life skills of, here's how you resolve conflict, here is how you express like your needs to a person who is important to you. Because I feel like that, like, there are communication classes in high school, but they're very much about a more professional form of communication. So like,
making your point, which when you're dealing with like a personal relationship is not, making your point is not necessarily what you're trying to do. And so that's such a good point. I hadn't thought about that. And I think I fully agree. It's almost like group therapy in a way, like like required group therapy to be a high school
genuinely, because I feel like there are other institutions, like there are like camps and like youth groups and things like that not all of them do this, but some of them do. And I feel like that is super valuable. And I feel like when I talk to people as adults, it's like, oh, like when I talked to Ben, like growing up Quaker, like that was what taught him how to communicate and how to exist in the world and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, why is that not just baked into our education?
Yeah.
Like, why do you have to go elsewhere?
100%. I grew up in Quaker schools as well. And that tenement of like being able to listen to everybody, to listen to yourself in silence, and to listen to the truth that you have in yourself that you must speak eventually, is those were incredibly important life lessons. And so I agree. What a wonderful idea. I love that.
Well, you heard it here first, teachers. Actually, I do want to say, I've seen some teachers on TikTok who do this, and it looks so amazing. And it's like, especially like for public school teachers to just voluntarily incorporate it into their curriculum, I think is just outstanding.
I have a friend who is a professor at Northwestern, and she is using her like engineering design class to help her students like learn about problem solving and learning about
Oh,
like
that's so interesting.
prototyping and developing ideas in general, what it means to brainstorm, to test, to retest, and like using the design method as a way to like help design their lives. And
That's
she's
so
being like
cool.
very specific about that, and also teaching them about collaboration and stuff like that. Like at the beginning of the class they spend 5 minutes designing something, like it's just a very like practical thing, but she's being very vocal about the fact that she doesn't want people to think that this is just sort of a one-track thing. She's like, you need to be a human being as well, which I love. I think it's brilliant.
And this is why we need to pay educators more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, dear.
Okay. Number 3. What inscription do you want on your gravestone?
She tried. Yeah. Nothing. I feel like I wouldn't want to like taint the way. Also, I don't want a gravestone. I want to.
I was gonna say, I don't want
Yeah.
that.
No, I want to be a tree. You know how I think they're starting to do this thing where like they can use your body to like decompose to feed a tree,
Yeah.
or feed like a garden, and I really want to do that. I want to be a tree. So, yeah, no, none of that inscription thing, because that like to me would impact the way that other people perceive me when they have their own memories of me, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, yeah,
That's
think
how I
what you want.
feel. That's how I feel about funerals too, in a weird way.
Mm.
Not that I don't. I think that it is very important to bring people together in a community when they are in grief to like celebrate the life of that person.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of funerals now are very much like, let's just only say good things about this person, and like let's not talk about any of the rough edges, and let's not talk about any of the things like actually make their character what it was.
Oh, interesting. Huh. Yeah, that's probably true. I mean, I just went to my grandmother's funeral last month, and the funeral itself was very like uh religious in that it had like its structure that we couldn't really change. But all of the events around that, yeah, I mean, we talked about everything. I felt very lucky that my family was very open. I mean, my grandmother was amazing. But you know, my cousins and I in particular were able to have a lot of conversations between just the three of us to kind of process some of the things that we had been through in our childhoods and whatnot. And that's a special thing. I think funerals are for the living. Like they really are.
Yeah,
They're completely for the living. And maybe the public perception is it tends to be one of happiness in order to lift up the people who are just sort of openly grieving. But I think there's, thankfully, at least in my experience, there was a lot of room for intergenerational healing and processing that I got to experience last month. So I'm grateful for that. But maybe that's not always the case.
I mean, it's definitely not the case in all. Hello, Peachy Cheeks. It's definitely not the case for all funerals, and I have definitely been to some. Like this is a long-winded explanation for this, but my dad grew up with a group of guys who were like uncles to me, and when one of them passed, his funeral was fantastic because people told stories that showed everything about him. So it was like, here's a story about what an immature asshole he could be, but it was really funny because like that's who he was. And then at the end, everyone just played music because they'd been in a band together when they were in high school. And that kind of celebration of life is very much what I want when I am gone. I don't really give a shit about a gravestone or a headstone. I would prefer not to have one.
Yeah, for sure.
But
I'm with you.
That's what's important to me. Gosh, these get deep, don't they?
Well, I mean, I expected that. If it's like a more interesting 20 questions, then it'll get interesting. I'm excited.
All right. What is a cause that's worth dedicating your life to?
That's, I mean, my personal opinion, obviously. I think, well, the first thing I want to say is dedicating your life to a cause is way more than I think a lot of people think about. Like I consider myself to be like a civilian who is engaged. When people talk about like activism, I'm like, that is a level of dedication and a level of persistence and mental gymnastics that I just don't have the capacity for, and
Yeah.
admire the heck out of people who do. But if I were to dedicate my life to a cause, it would have to be um, uh, education, and specifically access to education that is inclusive of like different kids with different like mental facilities. So kids with ADHD, kids who want to really focus on science, kids who really want to focus on the arts. Uh, yeah, like helping to improve the qualities of curriculums that that are not necessarily as accessible to kids with special interests or something like that. So that would probably be that would probably be what I would dedicate myself to. So something like, you know, Harvard's Project Zero or something like that. I feel like I would really enjoy that, and we'll probably end up doing something like that like much later in my life eventually.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's sort of two sides to this question for me, because there's like one side which is just radical reform, right? Like I want to fix the fact that we exist in a society where like wealth is controlled by a very small subsection of the population, and I would like it to be redistributed to people who have been like systemically oppressed, blah 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 blah. And not blah blah blah. Like obviously this is important, but I feel like that is a very macro thing.
It's a macro. Yeah, exactly.
And I think on a more micro level, something that I have done in the past, and that's something that I have wanted to find a way to get back into in my adulthood, is bringing art and like specifically dance and acting to prisons.
Cool.
I mean, prison reform is what I would prefer. I would like to not have our prison system exist in the way that it does. But I think it is incredibly important that when people are put into that system and like taken away from all of the things, like truly like all of the things that make life enjoyable and make you human, to bring that sort of access into that space is super, super important.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. I love that.
Okay. This could be a little spicy. What should parents stop teaching their children?
I think this is speaking from my experience, but this isn't so much what parents should stop teaching, but parents need to stop being afraid of talking about sex and protection and pleasure and all of the things that make life beautiful in that way with their children. Because, you know, even just the way that I said that just now and was like afraid to say it, like shows, you know, just how sheltered that aspect of my life was growing up. And I know a lot of people in exactly the same boat. And I think that needs to be the conversation needs to center around protection and pleasure and enjoyment rather than abstinence and fear and all of that. So I would that's like my main thing, because I've seen so many people get into so much trouble, and I've struggled with that personally throughout my life. But so
I mean, I feel like all the things that I can think of are things that it's like, well, this is what you should do, right? Like I think that parents should stop treating their children like they are children, in the sense that treating them like they cannot understand things.
Yeah, for sure.
And start, like, obviously there are topics that you don't talk to a 6-year-old about.
Sure.
That just goes without saying. But I think that parents don't give kids enough credit for what they will be able to engage with.
Yes.
And it does obviously take some tact and some ability to sort of know how to broach certain subjects with kids, but kids can handle a lot more than you think they can.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I know that we've completely inverted this question, but I actually think that it's better.
Yeah, because who are we to tell? Because who are we to tell parents what they should stop teaching their kids, other than to people please? Like, I guess that's like the main thing is like parents should like, I guess if I were to flip the question back around, I would say parents need to stop teaching their kids that it's okay for their other family members to cross their boundaries because they're
Right.
family, or
it's okay to hate people because of arbitrary characteristics, things like that.
yeah, things like that. Yeah, exactly. Like those to me seem very obvious, but in terms of just like bigger issues, I feel like I would actually flip the question around. I feel like
Yeah. There are actually two things in chat that I want to quickly point out, which is Jake saying, "What should I not be talking to my 6-year-old about?" And I want to say that, Jake, when we played timelines with your 6-year-old, we explained to her about what essentially like the death punishment was, and like, because it was like, you have to look at all of these different historical figures, and she was asking questions about these historical figures, and she was specifically asking about, oh my gosh, the guy who Braveheart is based on, I'm forgetting his name, something Wallace, and about how he was drawn and quartered, and she was asking about what that meant, and like we had to have a little bit of a conversation with her about that, and she handled it really well. I mean, I think it was like a lot for her to take in. Yeah. But it wasn't like earth-shattering for her. She understood it and she absorbed it, and then we moved on. Oh, Joan of Arc, that was the other one, right? Yeah. And like, she was very disturbed by the idea of a young person dying, but she also was able to process, and we had a conversation. Yeah. And it was fine. Yeah. The second thing was someone in chat said parents should stop teaching their kids that mistakes deserve punishment, because life is full of tiny mistakes like spilling a glass of water, but that's not always going to be punishable. Yes. And I completely agree with that.
Yes, I was terrified of getting into trouble when I was younger, because I thought that everything was like deserving of punishment. My parents, not so much, but like teachers in particular. Yeah, my parents didn't do that, but it was the key memories that I have of learning that were all happened in school, actually.
Yeah. I also think something that my parents did a pretty good job of, but not all parents do, and schools definitely don't, is making the punishment more of a consequence that is related to the thing that has happened. So you understand that there is a correlation, as opposed to, you didn't clean up the table, now you can't go hang out with your friends, right?
Yeah,
like exactly. There's no relation between those two things, and that's not connecting the neural pathways in a way where they understand the consequences that their actions might have. Because when you're an adult, you don't get an arbitrary consequence. You get a direct consequence if you do something that is wrong.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
Okay. Jesus. I really did not read through these beforehand. Is it okay to sacrifice one life to save 10?
It's like the trolley problem, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yeah. There isn't a right answer to that. Like there's you have to look at context, and context is like the important clue here. Especially if you have that one person that is that one person an active threat to those 10 people. Like, are we talking about like an active situation, or are we talking about like you got a crystal ball and now that for some reason, and then it's like you have information that these people don't. Like I'm not even going to answer that question, because you can't answer that ethically unless you're dealing with a law enforcement situation. But like even then, like it's ethical arguments around this are like legitimately impossible, and that's why no one has come up with a decent answer to the trolley problem.
There's also a follow-up that says, does your answer change if one life was a friend's and the 10 lives were strangers?
Again, context.
Context, yeah.
All context.
Because, I'm not going to say if the 10 strangers are terrible people, because morality is relative, but if like the 10 people are people who are actively doing harm and the one person is a friend, like there's differences to, or if like the 10 people, all right, we're going to skip over this one.
Yeah, that's context. That's trolley problem BS right there.
Yep. All right. How much do you change when you are alone? So like how is your behavior different around people versus when you were by yourself?
Um, it does change for sure.
Yeah.
Me when I'm alone, I am a little slower. I eat some junk food. I sleep in. I maybe sometimes I'm a little bit meaner to myself, but I'm also like pretty. I try to be like joyful and like I practice. I play music. And I'm very like sort of free spirited and like in the moment.
Mm.
Whereas with other people, I feel like I'm a lot more focused on what they want to do and what they want, and I'm a lot more like tuned into the social situation and going along with that as much as possible. But I also like I've over the years I've learned like what my wall is, like when I hit my social wall, or when I feel like I want to go even harder, like it's okay to push myself. Like I don't know, I feel like I this last year in particular, I hung out with people a lot more, like more than I ever had in my life, and
Yeah.
it was awesome. Like my mental health was so much better. Like I really like who I am when I'm hanging out with people.
Mm. I
And
totally,
I'm
totally get that.
yeah, and so right now I'm actually trying to make who I am by myself match more who I am when I'm with the people that I love.
Yeah.
Because I think the two sometimes get a little bit separated, and I like give myself permission to like slip back into old habits when I'm by myself, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny because Peachy Cheeks in chat kind of took my answer already, which is that because I am neurodivergent, I
Right.
mask a lot in social
Mm-hmm.
situations.
Yes.
And I am very conscious of everything that is happening and very, especially with people I don't know, especially, it is like
Yeah.
a completely different person.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure. Same.
and then like with Ben or with like friends that I'm super close with, that can kind of come down a bit and I can be more the person that I am when I'm by myself.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like I learn from my mask sometimes. Like there are I remember hearing this quote that was like uh don't be yourself if you're not liking who that is right now. And it was just this person
Interesting.
that was like openly giving you permission to not be yourself and to like to understand that your definition of self can evolve with what you learn. Like that's the point
Hmm.
of saying that. And I feel like I've really taken that in over the last year, in that I'm like allowing myself to learn from the ways in which I change when I'm around people, whether that's masking or no. And I'm trying to take that in while also like honoring what if that is exhausting and not keeping that around.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between learning and growing as a person and exhausting yourself, and I'm still kind of learning that line and figuring out what's real and what's not.
It's also interesting because I sometimes can't even tell when I am masking because I've gotten so used to, like, especially like in a work context, because like I know the trigger for me to know that I am fully like in the mask is when I start talking about the weather with people on Zoom calls, because I'm just like, this is a conversation that I would never have, and I am
No.
just saying this because that's what everyone talks about in these situations, which if anyone works a corporate job, like the first thing on every Zoom call is like, it's kind of cold out, like, oh wow, it's been snowing. And like, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it's so great. And I'm like, oh, this is like so not me to
Yeah.
such an extreme extent. And that's just like
Corporate
one of those little
culture.
things.
No, corporate culture is so fascinating to me. I was in corporate culture for like 2 seconds. Well, actually for several years, but part-time.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful practice that I worked for that was a lot more like it was a finance practice, but the people within it were like more arts. It was very
Yeah.
like family oriented. And so like I felt like I didn't have like a big office experience. And
Yeah.
the way people talk to each other
So
is so
weird.
codified and so weird, and I'm like, what if we all talked to each other the way we like talk to friends? Be like, yo, did you get that done? God, like like what if we talk to each other the way that
Like normal
everyone does,
humans?
like normal humans? Yeah, and like I feel like I
Yeah.
do that in my in my work setting, like
Yeah.
with the people that I work with sometimes. But we also like communicate like human beings.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting to see. I think corporate culture is we'll hopefully see a bit of a shift in that sort of like communication learning that I feel like we're sort of collectively as a culture trying to do right now on our own. I feel like I'm already seeing that start to affect like company culture. And
it definitely
so
does. It definitely
yeah,
does.
I'm excited to see how that continues, and maybe we can have people like not have to change entirely who they are to fit into their job.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, I will probably always mask around people that I don't feel 100% comfortable with. So I don't think that there's going to be, unless I'm like working with Zeki and Ben, who are like people that I run this channel with, where it's like, okay, like you know me,
right?
Like this is, I can be myself. I can, be weird. I can say the things that pop, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where I'm in a work environment with people who I don't know really well, where I'm going to be able to unmask, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. All right, you ready for the next question?
Let's do it.
How useful would you be in a zombie apocalypse?
Not.
I would die so fast.
Yeah, you girl, I love you so much. You would die immediately. I would be not far behind you. I feel like I would probably like I'd help people like organize and create a plan and be like pretty resourceful, but then I would be the first one to die in that plan. Like they'd get my brain power and then I would be out.
As soon as I ran out of my medications, I would be done. And the thing is, like, they're not medications that would kill me immediately, which is like makes it extra bad, because it's like thyroid medication and it's like supplements that help with my like genetic condition to help me process like different normal things that the body can process. So I would just feel like shit until I died.
Until you died. Well, until the zombie like got you, So
yeah, sure. I mean, honestly,
for that at that point,
genuinely, I might just end it at that point.
Yeah, and if it was a zombie apocalypse, I'd be like, okay, I'm out. Like,
this is not worth living through. So I'm just gonna go now.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would do that. I think I would probably, I would see it. I'd be like, well, we're all gonna die, so let's see it as like a game, And so I would try to like play the game. I've been playing more like video games recently, so I would like try to work with people and like, and yeah, it's like this is a game that is real life and nothing matters anymore. So let's fuck around and find out. So that would probably be my my attitude towards it, and maybe that attitude is useful in some way of like just keeping people going. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Valor made a great point in the chat, which is that with all of my allergies and like the lack of access to food, yeah, you too, right? Like, it's like, oh, here we scavenge these nuts, and we're like, well, yes, I'm not eating.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'd probably die of malnourishment before anything else, honestly.
Yeah. Also, question in chat that I had, which is, which video games are you playing?
I've been playing a decent amount of Mario Kart, Super Smash, but the thing that made me think of this was It Takes Two. I'm playing.
Oh my god, I've wanted to play that so badly.
It's beautiful and a really, really well done game. Yeah, it's good stuff.
I've heard wonderful things.
Yeah, it's a co-op game, a collaborative game, and if you have a friend or loved one or anything like that to play it with on a regular basis, I highly recommend. Yeah.
Well, I have a husband who might be in chat, but might
there we go. No, you two would be hilarious and wonderful at that game.
Maybe we'll stream that. We'll see.
Oh my god, I would watch the heck out of that.
All right, Ben, take notes. Okay. How much do you know about the world outside your country? Well, considering that we've already mentioned that Malinda and I live together abroad, I feel like that's a good jumping off point.
Yeah, I feel like I know a decent amount. Like I've been so lucky to travel so much. My parents traveled a bit for work. And so their priority with me growing up was like, we shopped at Goodwill, we got theater tickets for free, and everything we did was to save up to travel and to have experiences. And so that was like such a big tenet in my life growing up was being curious about the world and about cultures that are different from you. I loved National Geographic growing up, like deeply.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I got introduced to a lot of like different cultures and different like moments in history through National Geographic growing up. So um, I wouldn't say that I am wildly cultured, but the way I would respond to this question was I love knowing about countries and
Yeah.
cultures that are different from my own. I can't say how much I know about it, but I love learning about it. So.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I always want to know more. It's not that I have not like traveled and I haven't experienced and whatnot, but I feel like there is so much. Oh, sorry. Jake just said that his son is finding this enjoyable and clapping, which is very sweet.
Yay!
But yeah, I feel like, I've traveled a bit. I've been to like several different countries at this point. My parents made it a big point as well that like, traveling, cultural appreciation, when you travel, you don't do the touristy stuff.
Yes.
You do the stuff that the locals are doing, because that is the only way that you're going to actually learn about what it really is like to be in that space. But there's also a ton that I have not seen and a ton that I haven't experienced. And I want to. I am someone who is very much, I'm an experiences person. I think if I'm remembering correctly, because it's been a while since I did this, my Enneagram type was 7. If anyone has done like the Enneagram test, which is about like what motivates you in life. And I was all in on, I want to keep learning new things, keep going new places, keep meeting new people. And that is what brings me joy and brings me fulfillment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh boy. Another potentially controversial one. Which movie or book do you find ridiculously overrated?
Love Actually.
I don't disagree with that.
I said that because I, back in college, when I did my first Q&A on YouTube, said that was my favorite movie. And it's one of the biggest regrets that I have on the internet. Thankfully, I don't have very many regrets from the internet, but that is one where like I couldn't think of anything else. And I had just seen it and I was like, no, actually, I don't know. And like, my dumbass, like, excuse you, like, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I say that to try and right the wrongs of my 2014 sins.
Yeah, I feel, to be fair, I have definitely done that in interviews where someone's like, "What's your favorite blah blah blah," and I just say the first thing that I can think of because I'm so stressed at having to answer the question.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, and I didn't think about it, and that movie is. I see in the chat that movie is very problematic. It is. Oh my god, like it is just endlessly problematic at this point. So yeah, much regret. Not good. Not my favorite. What about you?
I don't know. I don't have something off the top of my head that I can think of, and I know there are. I mean, my first thing is Twilight because that is just an obvious answer, but I feel like that's not the most fun answer that I could give, and I know that I have. I know that this is something I have an answer to, and I just can't think of what it is.
I don't blame you. Sorry, I just need a snack.
No, that is totally fine. You're absolutely allowed to eat. Give me 1 second to rack my brain. If I can't think of anything, then we'll move on to the next question. And I will probably post on Twitter like tomorrow being like, I've thought of it. I know what the book is.
Amazing.
I mean, is the Bible an okay answer?
Let's go. Let's go. Talk about overrated. Nah, the Bible is a series of stories that are meant to help you understand the world, not to be taken literally.
As a series of stories that help you understand the world, I actually think that the Bible is perfectly fine and wonderful and whatever. I think that what has happened with the Bible is the problematic part.
Completely. Yeah.
I now feel like I need to dig myself out of a hole, so let's go on to the next question.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm with you. Jokes. It's for legal reasons. That was a joke.
Interesting. Okay. Who would you most like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight and why?
Someone who would be quiet and let me sleep. I would not want to talk to someone on a 10-hour flight. Jesus.
That's so funny because my response was Ben because we wouldn't get bored. just completely different.
Yeah, no. Like I've sat next to loved ones on a flight, and I'm like, I love you so much. I'm going to bed. Like, I mean, we'll watch movies or whatever. But and so like, yeah, I guess if it would be a person that I love very much. But just so that you don't get bored. But no, I like. I want to be in my own world on a flight. I do not want to have conversations. I want to be like, yeah, yeah. So yeah, anyone who will let me sleep, I'll be happy.
I struggle to sleep on planes, so that might be part of it.
I do
But
too. I always
also,
try.
that's fair. That's fair. But also, Ben and I, despite the fact that we have been basically like sheltered together since 2020 because of like pandemic and things, we never run out of things to talk about, to the point that we will get in bed at like 11 o'clock and start chatting. And then we'll look at our phones and be like, when did it get to be 3 a.m.? I'm
Yeah,
so confused.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel
I
like,
know the feeling very, very well. Yeah, I do know the feeling, and
yeah.
I definitely I experience that with my loved ones, but on a flight, that is not the time in which I want to do that. I also find that if I do have conversations on flights, especially with someone that I love, shit can take a turn for some reason. Like there's something about
Oh,
flying in
interesting.
airports and being in transit that makes things like come up. And like I've had a lot of like crying conversations on planes and in
Oh
airports.
my
And so
gosh.
so I like generally will just like avoid talking to people when I'm in that process. I think it's that feeling of going somewhere, that feeling of journey, that perspective that you get when you're literally up over the earth,
Yeah.
and you start thinking things and truth starts coming out. So yeah,
That's
I'd like to avoid that if I can and just do that on land because it's easier.
I completely understand why that would happen. I don't think I have ever had an important conversation on an airplane in my entire life.
I've had a few. I've had a few, man.
Wow.
It's brutal being like that bitch in the airport that is sobbing, and yeah, it's not great.
Oh God, imagine breaking up on an airplane.
I've had close calls.
Have you really?
One
Oh
of my yeah, what my first breakup my first breakup nearly happened several times, but my first breakup like very nearly happened on a plane. Yeah.
no. Oh God, that is so uncomfortable.
Yeah, brutal. Yeah.
I don't think I flew with a partner until then, which
Oh,
is
interesting.
weird.
Okay.
Which is very weird because I've had like long-term partners, but for whatever reason, we did not fly together.
Nice.
So maybe I just never had the chance.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. What are two things you know you should know how to do but don't?
Clean a bathroom super super well, like use bleach. Like I'm terrified of using bleach chemicals because I was taught like they're bad, but I'm like
Yeah.
crap, like I really want to like either figure out alternatives, something like that. Like my bathroom right now is like gorgeous except for the tub and like the tile. I really want to learn how to clean like
Yeah.
bathroom tile and like the tub itself really really well, not just like using like a bathroom like a grime cleaner, using like actual like really good stuff. So yeah, not being afraid of like mixing cleaning chemicals, like that's like my worst fear is like creating like toxic gas in my apartment or something like that. So yeah, that's my that's one thing I definitely wish I knew how to do. I wish I knew how to play guitar and piano really really well, like really well. I can do both of them but like badly, and if my hands could catch up with my brain, that would be such a nice thing. So and I wish that my parents had like pushed me into that more and like made me persistent about keeping piano around even though I was playing flute as well.
Yeah. For me, the first thing that comes to mind, and Ben will probably scream in chat attesting to this, my knife skills are atrocious.
No.
Yes.
Oh no.
I'm a really good cook. My mom taught me like flavor profiles and how to, like make really good dishes. I am so bad at cutting. I'm so bad at it.
Do you have
And
one
I
of those things
also
where you can like press it and it cuts for you?
no, I have a knife.
You should get one of those things so that you don't have to dice things as
I
much.
should. I should. I also so one of the issues that I have is I have really bad fine motor skills. I always
Mm.
have. I've always had. My mom said, "Oh, we knew you were always weird with your hands." And I was like, "Thanks, mom." Just like it's hard for me to like I don't know if it's like the connection from my brain to my hands is just like not as connected as it is for other people.
Sure.
So it makes anything that involves fine motor skills really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I cut things, it's just not good.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Sometimes Ben will just come over and take the knife from me and be like, I'm just gonna do this part. Go away.
Please leave. That's amazing. I love that.
I know there are other things that I absolutely don't know how to do, because sometimes I feel like I am fairly useless with real life skills. I do know how to do laundry. I'm really fucking good at laundry.
Yeah,
So good
me
at
too.
laundry.
Yeah.
I cannot fold a fitted sheet. I can't do it.
Oh, I'm actually okay at that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I have been handed fitted sheets to fold before, just because they were like, I can't do it, so yeah.
Ooh, someone just asked me what my third favorite dinosaur is. And that is so specific, and I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe Brontosaurus?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's up there, but it doesn't like make it right into the number 1 slot.
Yeah, it's like T-Rex, Pterodactyl, Brontosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
That like seems like a good ranking to me.
Although, but Velociraptors.
Oh, true. Maybe they flop with T-Rex, because T-Rexes are like,
yeah.
I went to the National History Museum over Christmas, and I saw like a T-Rex skull for the first time in a while, or a T-Rex like whole system.
Yeah.
And I saw their little arms, and I was like, good God, they were literally so tiny. They look so dumb. So yeah, T-Rex is still up there for me, just because it's like, it's so absurd. It's hysterical.
I love them because they are so dangerous and so cute.
Exactly. I'm like,
the dichotomy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you'll kill everything in sight, but your arms are hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right, heavy again. What is something you've done that you wish you could not, or that you could undo?
I definitely have feelings about, this is heavy, but not that heavy. I have feelings about the way that I have navigated my career, in that I definitely had a lot of times that I did what people wanted me to do, but at the same time, I can't come down on myself too hard for that, because a lot of times that was what I wanted to do at the time. So I don't think I could have seen too much of an alternative, but I feel like recently, especially, like I did this thing where I really pushed my old TikToks onto YouTube Shorts, and it made my channel grow like crazy, but with people who were more down for the folk music rather than for the stuff that I'm releasing now. And I did that to grow the channel, which I think was kind of an ego thing for me, unfortunately. And I regret that a little bit. I'm like, oh, I would have rather have grown slower with people that are more down, than with people who are going to be like, why is she releasing, her own music? Like, she should sing Drunken Sailor, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I'll make the pivot and it'll be fine. And I, obviously having over 1 million subscribers is something that I'm incredibly grateful for. And
congratulations. That's
fucking
amazing.
Thank you. And have the capacity to turn around, of course.
Yeah.
But I kind of hit me recently, and I was like, oh, darn, I did that because my ego wanted to pass that 1 million subscriber mark, and that's tough. So yeah.
I feel like mine, because the things that I really think of are very, very personal, so I'm going to go a little bit more abstract. I think my gut is almost always correct, and there are times that I know that my gut is right, and I logic myself out of following it.
Oh God, yeah, me too.
And I think that there's like a lot of instances I can think of where it's like, I just wish that I had listened to myself and listened to my intuition and what I knew was true, and done the thing that was aligned with that.
And
the other thing is that I wish that when I was younger, like especially in high school, that I cared less about what other people thought of me, which I think a lot of people do in high school, right? Like that is a very high ego time in people's lives, speaking of ego. But like, I think that if I had followed the things that brought me joy and that I was passionate about more aggressively and with less care about what other people would think about those things, I actually would have set myself up to be more successful as an adult. Not successful like professionally, but just successful in like my happiness and my fulfillment levels.
Sure.
So I think those are probably the two biggest things for me.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah.
I hear that. Good stuff.
Oh. And then some people in the comments said that they appreciate your shorts being on YouTube since they don't have TikTok. A couple people said that that's been really useful for them.
Yeah, of course. Like that's the thing that I want to always caveat when I say things like that. That's just like it's an unintended side effect of me like genuinely wanting to post these things on YouTube because a lot of people don't have TikTok, and I was like, oh sweet, another way for people to access them, you know. So I think it's a mix of the two. So I'm very glad that it's useful for people, and I'm glad they're up there. Like I wouldn't want them to not be there. But yeah, I think it's part of the reason I did it was for like ego reasons, and I'm a little like ugh about that. But very, very glad that they are there and accessible to people for sure.
Perfect. This one I hope you have an answer for because I'm gonna need to think about this.
Okay.
What do most people think about you that is not true?
There's literally I have so many answers.
I have like no answers. I'm like, I show my whole ass on the internet every day.
Yeah.
I don't know what people think about me that's not true.
I think a lot of people think that I am. There's a lot of people these days who are like hypersexualizing me and like putting me into this sort of like. People think that I love like fantasy and you know heroine adventures. And I'm like, it's super. That stuff is super fun. It's fun to play with, but it's not who I am. And I know there's a lot of people who like deeply identify with that stuff, and I honestly don't. But my voice sounds like it does, and the music that I make, a lot of people just associate with that, and so they pigeonhole it. And it's just like if you actually meet me, I'm like a hella queer woman from Brooklyn, you know, or like who's been living in Brooklyn long enough to like sound like it. Yeah. And I feel about as just like modern and you know, don't give a shit as a lot of people like don't think I do. So I think that's something that a lot of people think about me these days, and sort of pigeonhole me into that category when I just don't identify with it. And I probably have made it seem like that's something I identify with. And again, talk about things we wish we could undo. But that's fun. Like, again, it's a fun thing to do. And I like to step into that sometimes. Like, that's a blast. But I don't know, like, I don't see Irish music as being like something of the past. I see it being completely relevant and like and a deeply modern thing, and trying to communicate that to people is really hard when people are like, you're a siren, and I'm like, yeah, you know.
It's also so funny to me because as someone who has a lot of like fantasy friends, when I think about my friends who are really into that stuff, I never think of you. Like exactly. You are not the first person or the second or the third or even like the 10th person who comes to mind for that kind of thing.
Yeah, completely. No, that is not at all. It's not who I am, and a lot of people think that, and I'm like,
so funny.
Have you seen? And and I literally have to just like wave my pride flag like really hard and be like, "Gay, I'm gay. I live in Brooklyn, and I wear like recently like I've stopped wearing. Last year I wore like a ton of like flowy dresses because I was feeling super flowy, and then when I did tour, I actually realized that I felt so much more myself in pants and a blazer, like you know, just like as
and it looks
like,
great on you. By the way,
thank you. But like the way I would dress if I walked out on the street or I was going to like a gig or something like that, like here in New York, and I was like, even though I'm playing like Irish music and it's like from a very particular world, like I'm gonna look exactly the way I do now, and I love that. And so I'm trying to like help people understand that that's something that I want to expand people's idea of what folk music has the capacity to encompass, and that it can be very modern, and I don't have to just be wandering around in fields and dresses all the time, even though that is super fun and I'm still doing a little bit of that. It's not the full picture.
Yeah. I feel like for me, in my personal life, the people that are close to me know who I am. And then when I think about what people on the internet think about me, because of the fact that, you know, it's been very recently that people who I don't know in real life like follow me on any social media or whatever. I have made a conscious choice to be very much myself and to not try to like curate what I say to be something other than just what is authentic to me.
Right.
And I don't know. I guess I don't know what assumptions people have that might be not true based on that. So I can't really answer the question because I really do try to be 100% authentic and myself and like open and honest about things all of the time.
More power to you there. I think for me, like there's a lot of my life that I also do keep private. And so that probably affects the way that people perceive me.
Sure.
I see my presence on the internet to be a very artistic one, and I see social media to be an inherently performative place. Like it's not just me that's performing; it's literally anybody who posts anything on social media.
Yes,
it's an inherent performance, and so obviously people are going to make assumptions about you and think things that are not true. And so I've kind of just accepted that as like a reality, and as long as people in life don't think things about me that aren't true, I don't really care what people on the internet think. It is what it is.
I think that you're right about social media being inherently performative. I think that because for the most part I just use Twitter, I can just have a thought and be like, here's this shit thought that I had and send it out, and that feels less curated than some other social media does. That's not to say that like at the same time, like yes, anything that you put out into the world is to some extent, it has to be performative, like because it's just you wouldn't do it otherwise, right? Like that's
I think especially turning on the camera is like even if you're in the middle of like one of the worst moments in your life and you turn on a camera, that's performance. You know, you may be documenting, but you made the choice, you know. And so I think that's something that I'm super conscious of, and super conscious of how I share that, and what I want to share of that, and also how I consume social media and how I perceive myself as creating assumptions and creating stories around people that I don't know personally. I catch myself all the time being like, oh wow, you know, I wish that this creator would like believe in herself more. She's clearly going through a phase of like not feeling super confident in herself. And I'm like, girl, what do you know? Like, what do you
you know nothing.
You know nothing. Like, yeah, you're, you know, deducing a story about this person from what she's posting, but like, you don't know. Like, geez, you know, so the little things like that where I catch myself doing the very human thing of creating a story to try to fill in blanks, because that's what we do. But I catch myself doing that and being like, stop. Like, you don't know the answer to this, and nor should you, because you don't know this person. Now back up and just appreciate the fact that she is, you know, posting something that made you happy that day. Like, you know.
Yeah. And now I'm like examining everything in my head, but like I feel like there are absolutely things that I don't share.
Yeah.
But I feel like for the most part they are things that it's not just that they are deeply personal, it's also that I don't think that there is value in sharing them.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's the big one. Yeah. I'm like, you don't need to know everything. Not everything is useful to you, you know.
Yeah, and it's also like I don't even know that someone would want to know. Like it's not, it wouldn't add value for me, it wouldn't add value for them. Like why? Yeah. Well, now I'm going to go into an existential spiral for the rest of the day. So this has been great.
We have a stream later.
Yeah, great. That's going to be wonderful. What is something that can't be taught and can only be learned with age? Oof.
The notion that when things are awful, things will be okay.
Yes.
I think that for me personally was something that had to be learned with age, and that really smacked me when it was like the very beginning of the pandemic. My parents were with my grandmother, and I was just, you know, kind of freaking out, and my grandmother was like, well, you know, we've been through things like this before, and you know, it's just as a moment in history, and we're gonna get through it. And I was like, huh, interesting perspective. Like, yes, but like I didn't have the reality of that had not hit yet, you know, because I'd been through what I'd been through before that, but nothing as like severe and like wartime like,
Yeah.
as the pandemic. And so to experience that through my grandmother's eyes was really profound. And I was like, wow, okay, I will feel this way eventually. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would say like the wisdom to know that things will be okay when they are really not is something that you learn with age.
Yeah. I think for me, it is how finite life is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Like you can understand conceptually as a kid that people get older and that people pass away and that like like you understand it in your head, but you don't feel
Yeah.
it the way that you do as you get older and like
Older.
and older and people that you know and that you care about and like you just even if you experience a lot of death as a kid, that feeling of your own mortality doesn't come until later, which is
Yeah.
morbid, but
Probably,
that
but it's true. It's true, but it also, for me, the awareness of my own mortality has made my life feel a lot longer because
mm,
I do stuff now and say things now and am present in a way, particularly since my grandmother died, that I'm conscious of like the fact that good memories and good presence makes my life feel longer. And so it's this weird like Uno reverse that happens when you start to learn that actually
yeah,
your life starts feeling like it's being sort of stretched out in a way. It's like taffy.
yeah.
And I love that. So I don't think the growing awareness of your mortality is something to be afraid of. I think it's actually awesome.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just a perspective that you get with age.
Yeah, for sure.
That's and it can kind of go one of two ways, right? Either
Yeah.
you see your mortality and the fact that you have a limited amount of time on this planet to do what you want to do and you are fueled by that, or
Yeah.
you see it and it is crippling and you can't overcome it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I hear you.
Whew. All right. Wait, there was a question in chat. What is your favorite random skill that no one would expect you to have?
Interior design. I have this thing called Planner 5D. It's a website. Anybody can use it. It's amazing. And my ability to make a space look cute and to make a 3D rendering of a space and to come up with things to like make that space look cute and take in someone else's aesthetic and take in my own is really solid. And I've been messing with that recently, and I just love that. I love that about like I don't know. I love being able to surprise people with my ability to do that. But other than that, every single one of my special skills is on the internet in full display. Nothing is special. It just is. I can do nothing else other than what you all see, and that.
Belinda, you gave a real answer, and my brain went, I can fold my tongue in half and make it stick.
I can do that.
And
See,
yeah.
that's the thing is I don't have any fun special skills like that. I mean, I can make my elbow like hyperextend a little bit, but like I really don't have any like fun special skills like that. Like I genuinely don't. And so when people ask me, I'm like, I don't know. Are the guitars on the wall required for interior design? Yes. And also to play logically, but yes.
Okay, moving along. Ugh. Oh God, again. This list is just so. Do you think that the convenience of technology is worth the loss of privacy that comes with it?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how you use it. Like you have relative control over that. I think it's at the end of the day, like there's a lot about technology and privacy that isn't up to you, with things like facial recognition and whatnot. But you could not have you could deny yourself that convenience for the sake of privacy at any time, like because we have relative amount of agency over it. I'm like, no, like know the decision that you're making.
Yeah.
But for me personally, yeah, I make decisions accordingly. I try to acknowledge like the risks and versus the rewards. Like life is a whole balance of risk versus reward, and technology is an inherently risky thing to try and engage in, and we all need to know that, and that thankfully was taught to at least me like early on
Yeah,
in
same.
school. And so yeah, you develop a good relationship with that, I think. And yeah, and use a VPN.
Yes. I feel like for me, and this might be a little bit like callous, I don't think that any information that is potentially being gathered about me, and also like I worked in cybersecurity. I know how to opt in, opt out of things, and
Right.
like kind of manage my digital footprint. But I don't feel like there's nothing juicy, like
No.
it's like, oh, I bought a pair of shoes. Oh gosh. And it's like for me right now, and like I do want to acknowledge the fact that there is potential for information to end up in the wrong hands, and for like the state of the world to change in some way that it is no longer safe to be sharing information in the way that you have been. But if what happens is that I get some tailored ads that actually are things that I'm interested in, I'm not that mad about it. And I understand that not everyone feels that way, and like that's totally valid if you don't agree.
Oh god, yeah.
But like, I don't know. I've bought some things from Instagram ads in the past. They were pretty cool.
Yeah. No, I yeah, exactly. I'm like, what are you gonna find? Nothing. So that is definitely my my attitude on it. Is I'm like, I don't put things online that I wouldn't want someone to find.
Yes.
So yeah. Easy.
Also, I think all of my social media at this point is public, and anything that I don't feel comfortable sharing publicly just doesn't go on social media, because that's easy, right? Like don't put it out into the internet if you don't want it to end up somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right. What are the consequences of everyone having instant distraction at their fingertips?
I'm going to speak personally because I can't necessarily speak for everybody. I lose touch with my own body's natural coping mechanisms. That's probably the biggest consequence that I feel, and that I'm trying to get back in touch with. Scrolling for me, like looking at TikTok, the problem is it works. Like the problem is it does give me that break for a brief period of time, and I often find things that are incredibly useful, and so trying to manage that is very difficult. But at the same time, what I did find when I have gone through periods of really trying to manage that, I have found what my body is actually craving in that moment, rather than distraction. It's craving a little bit of like physical self-care moment, like a little bit of yoga, a little bit of stretching. I want to go for a walk, I want to eat something, am I hungry? Like it makes me a lot more aware of like what my needs are, when I control the level of distraction that I go for. So that's I can only speak personally on that one.
I think I also am going to speak personally, which is that for me, I have found that I sometimes use my phone as a coping mechanism, because with my like ADHD, and then I will stim a lot, and what I just do is I pick up my phone and I like start scrolling, and I'm like, I'm not even looking at what it is, I'm just doing something with my hands.
Motion.
And sometimes I don't even know what it is that I have. Like I open an app and I'm like, why am I staring at this app? Like I don't remember choosing to open this app.
I do the same thing.
And I think like there have been, and honestly, I haven't done this in a couple years, and I used to do this every year, which is over the summer. My family and I would go on vacation. It's like this place that is very wooded, and there are cabins, and it's beautiful, and it's very connected to nature. And I would always leave my phone in the cabin. Like that was like my thing that I did, where it was like whenever I'm out and I'm doing things and I'm taking walks, and even if I'm going to the beach, like the phone stays in the cabin.
Nice.
And I always found that I like regrounded a lot in those periods of time, which like partially is because yes, being in nature and being able to just relax and be on vacation and to read books and eat good food and that sort of thing is very grounding. But then also removing that tether to other, and that tether to the outside world, or when I was a teenager, whatever fucking person it was that I had a crush on at the time or whatnot, is really centering.
I tried that. I've tried that a few times now. And I actually don't enjoy a complete cutoff, because, I mean, like maybe, certainly at points during the day, I do cut myself off and I'll like turn my phone off. But I tried that once where I went on like a complete social media break for like 5 days, and it was awful because I
Well, it's
felt like
harder when you're doing life
well,
too, and
yeah, when
not
you're
just
doing life, and also like I missed my friends. I wanted to talk to my
yeah,
friends, and like I could text them, but like if I was seeing what was going on with their life, then I could talk to them about that, you know?
yeah,
And that was like that's always an exciting thing. So like it did make me aware of like the good
the
that the social
positive.
internet does do, you know, and
Yeah,
I don't want that to just be labeled as a distraction because it is, but it's beautiful. And so it's about learning, it's about balancing that. It's about learning like
yeah,
what your thresholds are and learning what like what you why you are doing what you're doing when. So are you
yeah.
stimming? Are you distracting? Or are you trying to connect with people? You know, and so yeah, I'm trying to get better at that personally.
Yeah, and I mean, I to be fair, I have tried this in just actual life and it has gone terribly. So I think that it's
Yeah,
something about the like situation of knowing that there are no plans that need to be attended to. There is no one who is like actively trying to
yelling
get
at
in
you.
contact with me,
Yes.
and it's just having that time set aside anyway to
Yeah.
then also add the phone into it because I actually did this when we were in Ireland. I was like, I'm going to leave my phone at home and I'm going to go out and just enjoy Ireland. And it was close to the place we were staying. I was with my friend. She had her phone, so I was like, it's gonna be great.
Okay.
Went to
Good.
go get our nails done. She realized she had a work thing, and she was like, I have to go. While I was in the middle of getting my nails done, and she just left. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh no, oh no.
No, that is rough.
And I'm very directionally challenged, so it wasn't like it was a super long walk to get back. But
Yeah.
I'm really bad if I haven't thought about it and been like, okay, now that we're walking here, I'm going to catalog exactly where we are and how to get home.
Yeah.
I was literally just sitting there like hyperventilating while this woman was finishing my nails. Like, why did I leave my phone at home? This is the worst
That's
decision ever.
awful. No. Oh, dude, I'm sorry. That
I
sucks.
did tell her, I told her to send Ben, and I did meet Ben halfway on the way back. So I was walking
Okay,
in the right
good.
direction and everything was fine. But like
Great.
the sheer terror in my
Yeah.
chest. And she was like, I have to leave now.
That's horrifying. Yeah. No, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have been terrified.
All right. Oh, this is sort of similar but different to the one about regrets.
Mm-hmm.
This one is, what makes you look back and say, what was I thinking about a choice that you made?
This is so specific and so funny to me. I did this medley between Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings themes. And I like put so much effort into this video. I had a goddamn dragon fly in with special effects, and it was like not worth it. Like it's a great track, but like the video was just not that interesting. And I was like, why? Looking back on it, I'm like, why did I go that hard? I did learn a lot. Like that was all is all part of the process. I learned how to like get permits at a national park to film. I learned how to like organize a film shoot in Los Angeles. Like I learned a lot from it, so like no regrets, but also what was I thinking? Like just looking at it, I'm like, that's it's rough. It's rough.
Oof. Yeah. Mine is the YouTube channel I had in middle and high school.
I feel like we may have watched one of those videos at one point when we were together in London.
We might have.
We may
It's
have
possible.
one inebriated night. Highly possible.
So mortifying. I don't know. You might have seen mine, but I recently found the one that I had with a friend, which is even more mortifying.
Those are the best.
And when we found it, I showed it to Ben and to Zeki, and I don't think I have ever personally felt so embarrassed for something that I did. And it's not like I'm doing anything problematic. It's just so cringy.
Oh God, I bet. I know the stuff that I made during that time, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that is not on the internet.
The worst part is that the joint account that I had with this friend, neither one of us has the login for. So those videos will be on YouTube forever.
You can figure it out. You can figure it out if you're like really desperate to get it down, but like, oh, that's rough. That's rough.
What I will say is I learned how to do video editing from that. So
yes, exactly.
Life skill.
Yeah.
Was it worth it? Absolutely fucking not.
No, I hear you.
All right. Similar theme. I'm sensing some themes in here.
Yes.
If you could live your life again knowing what you do now, what would you change?
Oh, um, I feel very lucky. Nothing. Like, genuinely, I've had a really dope life. Yeah, really, genuinely, I don't think I would change anything. I feel so grateful for all of the opportunities that I've had, and how one decision has led like kindly and confidently to another, and even if I've like gone down swinging, like I've reached incredibly low points in my life, but like they made me who I was and taught me how to communicate the way that I do, and yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing I would do different, to be honest with you.
I feel like there are things that I look back on and I wonder what my life would have looked like had I done X or Y. But at
Uh-huh.
the same time, because of the way that everything snowballs into the next thing, into the next thing,
Mhm.
I know that if I had made different decisions, that I
Yeah.
wouldn't be here.
Yeah, exactly,
And
yeah.
and I think that that is the reason why I wouldn't change anything. Not because there aren't things that I look back on and think like, "Oh, I wish I had done this," or "Oh, I wish I had done that," or like, "Oh, like why didn't you invest in Apple? What Apple?" You know what I mean? Like things like that, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like this sort of
Yeah.
objectively, but at the same time, if like something like that could have exponentially changed the trajectory of my life, and maybe I would have gone to a different college, or I wouldn't have moved to Boston and wouldn't have met Ben, and then like the channel wouldn't be happening and I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
now. And like I think of that, it's not to say that there aren't things that I look back on and like I'm like, oh, I could have definitely handled that differently, or I could have definitely made a decision that might have in the moment been the better decision.
Yes, I feel that way too, 100%.
Um, but yeah, I wouldn't want to not be here
Yeah,
in like
exactly.
in this moment.
In this moment, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
feel exactly the same way. I'm like, "Oh, I could have done so many things differently, and maybe, I would have gotten less hurt along the way, or other people would have gotten less hurt along the way, but, like, we're all okay."
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
Yeah. I didn't no one has died because of something I have done.
Exactly,
Like
exactly the same. Like, yeah, no, that's there's definitely things that I wish hadn't happened in my life, but it's relatively inconsequential at this point. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
yeah. Chat question. What's your
Yeah.
favorite coping mechanism?
Um, practicing singing shanos to myself. Actually, I do that in the shower
Mm.
all the time, and when I just need to like reconnect, I sing in Irish to myself mostly, and just like feel it in my body and shed it, and it is such a go-to. It makes me so happy. Or playing whistle or something like that. Yeah.
That's a very wholesome coping mechanism.
Yes,
Uh,
I have
I
others,
yeah, I was gonna say
but
I can think of some that are for me not the best, but I feel like what I've always done, which actually the pandemic and lockdown really pulled the rug out from under me and had me like re-examine how I handle my emotions, is that it's experiences and it's people.
yeah,
So for me, whenever I have been like in the up until 2020, whenever I was not feeling well, either I would call up a friend and do something with them, or
yes,
I would just go out on a solo adventure. I'd be like, I'm going to go to a museum today
yeah,
by myself because I just need something to like change the chemistry of what is going on in my brain and like
yes,
be different.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then COVID hit, and I had a really hard time with that. And Ben can attest to it because it was like, okay, I'm having these like really overwhelming feelings. And what I would normally do is be like, all right, let's go out to dinner tonight, or like,
yeah,
let's go see a show, or let's go do this, or let's go do that. And you just
yeah.
have to sit with them.
Yeah, yeah. That's become one of my favorite coping mechanisms since the pandemic, because the pandemic made me aware that I wasn't an introvert. I was like, "What? This
Mm,
is news to me." But it turns out I was just socially anxious,
yeah,
and still am. But like, and I'm more introverted than the extreme extroverts that I know. But
yeah,
I'm not. I need humans, and picking up the phone and talking to another person is one of the best ways for me to snap out of it and to get perspective and to be okay.
yeah,
Especially when it's a human that I trust and love, or going out with a friend. Like, I have to go out or meet up with someone, especially if it's like one person. I'm more comfortable in like single person hangs. Um,
honestly, same.
yeah, like I have those hangs like at least 5 nights a week these days, which I did not do before at all. And
Yeah,
sometimes that changes because I am working on a project or whatever. But I interact with another human being at some point every day, and that is a very important thing for me to do.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm similar to you in that I like specific people
Yes.
who I am comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I don't do well in big groups, like big groups. Like I could have, if I have like 3 friends who know each other, who we all are like comfortable together, that is totally fine for me if the 4 of us hang out.
Yeah.
But if it's a party, like a
Yeah.
party with people I don't know,
Ugh, no, not my favorite. I can go
No.
with people that I love, but like
yes. And then I go to the room where no one is with the people that I
yes,
love
and
because I'm
hide.
like, this is
Yeah.
overstimulating. I just want to go talk. Like I am the queen of taking a small group to a quiet room at parties and then just chatting.
Yes. Yeah, I'm the queen of like having that one-on-one conversation while everyone else is like doing their social thing and we're just like
Yeah.
locked in and I'm like not paying attention to anything else. Yeah,
Same.
100%.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, this is kind of fun. You have $100. Well, I'm now thinking about inflation. I'm like, what was this written? You have $100. All your friends are busy, and you have the whole day to yourself. What do you do? $100 is definitely enough for a day. But
Yeah, I was like, if they're asking anything more than that,
I didn't know where it was. I didn't know where it was going. I just saw you have
Okay.
$100, and I was like, I hope that this is a valid amount of money given how much prices have gone up recently.
Ugh, in New York City, that's also not necessarily, yeah. And I have the whole day to myself. All my friends are busy.
Yes.
Okay. Ooh, I love going to a concert for someone that I really like by myself in New York City and like wandering the city at night, especially around like Lincoln Center, like that sort of area. I love taking walks in New York City by myself. So,
Me too.
yeah, I would go into Manhattan, I would go to an adorable coffee shop and I would listen to music, I would work. I would probably try to go to like a yoga class or a dance class or something like that. And I would go to a gig or like a Broadway show. Like I would go see art and walk around if it was decent weather and just like take in the city. Like that makes me so happy when I do that. And it's rare that that kind of thing happens. I'm usually with other people, but the rare moments that I have taken myself on a date to go see a concert, it's one of my favorite things because I can unabashedly I want to. I'm not worried about what someone else is like perceiving me.
Yeah.
Just in it. And yeah, I really enjoy that. It's a good time.
I'm gonna sound like I'm copying you because I pretty much have the exact same answer. I do have to caveat it with we are currently living in Connecticut now, and even with $100, I don't know what the fuck I would do. So I am gonna transpose myself to the city that I lived in for a very long time and that I love. And in New York, I walked everywhere and I still do when I'm there. It's like one of my favorite things in the world to do is just to walk around the city.
Yeah.
Like I remember I had a doctor's appointment down by City Hall and I lived on 76th Street and I walked there one time because I had time to kill. And I was just like, this is like, why would I not do this?
Yeah.
And you know, like, yes, like go to a coffee shop. I think I would go to one of those, I don't know if they're still doing this, but they used to be restaurants that would do happy hour, but they would do happy hour food too.
Yes.
So you could get like a big plate of nachos for like $5.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd definitely hit up a happy hour, get some food, maybe get a cocktail. And then if I could, I guess it depends on how much tickets were, I would love to rush a show.
Yeah, rushing a show would be phenomenal. Yeah. Yeah.
I did the solo rush for The Great Comet when I lived in New York, and it was just so nice.
Should we make a day of this? Like,
we
this
should.
Sounds, we should do
ideal.
It. Please,
I'm completely down.
Hang. Let's do it.
All right, we'll do it. Yeah. And we'll have to make sure that we both stay within $100.
Cool. Great.
To stay true to the prompt.
Great. We'll do that.
All right. Awesome. If you could be born again and choose, oh my. And essentially create yourself like you're a video game character. So nationality, gender, race, where you're born, like all of that kind of stuff.
I don't want to answer that question.
I don't want to answer that either.
Great, let's skip that.
Like,
yeah.
Well, because I feel like, just to like dig into it for a second, I don't think that I could be anything other than what I am, right? Like that is
exactly
such a fundamental part of like they're so intrinsic to who I have become at this point in time.
Yeah.
That it wouldn't be me anymore. It would be a different person.
Yeah. No, it literally wouldn't be me if I changed that kind of thing.
What I will say though is I would love to be born in Europe. Just throwing that out there.
I would love to be born in Europe. I would love to have been born in New York City, or I would love to have been born in a place that was, or in a community that was a bit more like openly diverse. Like my version of diversity was like more international.
Yeah.
And I now am like surrounded by a big Latino community, a big Black community, and I would love to have grown up with that in my life more presently and actively when I was younger, because I'm now learning about like how those communities operate and how to like be a part of that community in a way that's not invasive and all that stuff. So I think I would rather have, or not rather, but I would have loved to have grown up with that closer. But that's the only thing that I would like change about my upbringing, or like who I am, or like what would have made my life easier at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that as well. Growing up in upstate New York, which is a very homogenous and Christian space, which I'm not Christian, and so that was kind of like a lot of white Christians was my experience growing up, and there was a little bit of diversity, but there was a lot of systemic issues going on. And I would have loved to have also been able to be in a more vibrant space at Anissa's like LOL. Anissa knows. Anissa grew up with me. Anissa grew up in Kingston. But yeah, I would have liked to have been in like a little bit more of a diverse, vibrant community earlier on. I also would have liked to have been born somewhere with universal healthcare, and with better gun restrictions, and you know, better childcare, all of that kind of stuff.
New Zealand. New York, I would love to have grown up in New Zealand. That'd be nice. But but like don't change anything else ideally, like, which is impossible. So
but I think that question, that's sort of the direction I wanted to take that for sure, and not get too into the weeds of like make your sim. Oh my god, that was the last question.
We did
I didn't even realize that we finished. I feel like I should have given more of like and our final question.
And our final question. No, that was good. That was excellent. Yay, we did the thing. Those were great. Those were actually like pretty good questions for like an internet like
a random thing that I found this morning to help us deal with the fact that we aren't in the same place.
Exactly. That was
very thought-provoking and really fun.
It was. I definitely ended up talking about things on the internet that I don't normally talk about, which is always like something I love doing in situations like this. So that was super fun.
I guess I will. Here's what I'll say. I know that chat has had some questions. I will open it up to the chat if they want to add any additional questions in for us to answer before we wrap up.
It'd be fun.
But also, we will be back here in, what time is it? 4:35, 6, 7:30, 3.5 hours. I can't do math on the spot, so I don't know if that's right. We'll be back at 8 o'clock Eastern. And we're going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons. And we will be doing a heist on a boat, apparently.
A yacht heist.
A boat heist.
Which was my idea, and I immediately regretted it when I said it, and everyone was like, that. I'm like, no. It was one of those.
Will there be a VOD of the stream? Yes, there will be a VOD on Twitch for however long Twitch keeps it, which I think is 2 weeks, and then it will also end up on our YouTube channel, which is also Amateurish Productions, tomorrow, 24 hours after the stream, because that is the rules with Twitch. Melinda, do you work out?
I do. I haven't been working out as regularly recently because life has been incredibly overwhelming and busy. But I do, and I feel like a dramatically better human being when I do it, and I'm really trying to embrace that and do that more and give myself that gift more of being able to feel the way that I feel when I do work out. So yes, I do. Even if it's for like 10 minutes, you know, not to like make it sound like it's a big thing. Like even if it's just for 10 minutes, it's still good.
Melinda, you can feel free to not answer this, but I do see a question about twisted translations.
Oh, will there be some more twisted translations? I'm actually going to make a video on that channel for the 9th anniversary, and I'll kind of catch people up on like what I'm doing, and I'll speak super openly about this and about sort of where I am at creatively in my life. But in advance, the short answer is no, definitely not. But the long answer is I have surprised myself before in the past, and I don't like to shut down creative avenues for myself. Like there was no reason for me to like, you know, say a heavy goodbye to the channel and be like, goodbye, you know, like no, it's it's just this thing that I do not have the creative energy or the space for it all these days. But I love so much what it gave to people in the era that it was the main thing. Because like people, I get people who say like, your videos got me through high school, like that kind of thing, and that is so beautiful, and it allows it to be the piece of nostalgia that it's kind of become. And I didn't want to like beat that horse to death. You know, I wanted something in the same way that a TV show in theory should end when it's, you know, when it knows that it's time. I very much felt that way about Twisted, but I also know that there could be a reunion at some point, in the same way that TV shows have reunions. Like that's something that isn't an idea that I want to keep open for myself, but I do not see that happening at any point in the future that I know about. But again, I've surprised myself before.
Okay. Do either of you have singing tips? I've been stuck in choir mindset for several years, and I'm recently discovering I can do more. I'm in voice lessons, but I want to hear your guys' tips for making your voice better, for lack of a better word. Hard one.
That's hard. Yeah, it's really hard when you know, voice is such a unique thing. Have a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, have a teacher that you really like. And choir honestly like gave me so much of my tone, so like don't dismiss choir. But yeah, choir can be incredibly useful, but just talk and then start singing is like something that I do to myself all the time. And that for me has helped me find like what my authentic voice is. And also my biggest singing tip that has turned into a life tip is 80%. Always sing at 80%. If you feel like you're going past 80% and you're giving 110% of what you got, you're pushing. You're overthinking, you might hurt yourself. Yeah. So just an 80% is not only perfectly acceptable, it will literally sound better because you will sound more relaxed. And the actual like quality of what is being put out is literally better at that point, in my opinion. So yeah, sing at 80% and figure out what that is for you and be very happy there and enjoy it. Like singing should feel enjoyable. It shouldn't feel like a push or a pain or anything like that.
For me, and this might be very much a me thing, but I take a very you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules approach when I'm learning a new song, in the sense that it sounds boring until I know the piece, and then you can find those little flavors and it starts to feel like you are speaking emotionally as opposed to just singing notes that are written on a page.
Yeah.
But I think that especially when you're learning to sing, and granted, choir does lay the foundations for this really well.
It really does, yeah.
It's super important to get that groundwork of I understand how to read music, or I understand, you know, what these notes are. And I mean, you don't have to be able to sight read to be able to sing well. Like that's not a thing, but to have some of that just baseline knowledge, and then to be able to say, okay, now I'm going to throw some of this out the window and make this piece feel like me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. And on that note, I see somebody saying, any tips for learning Shanos? Similar learn the rules before you break the rules thing, which is I had teacher, like fundamentally with Shanos, it is an oral tradition. So the best way to jumpstart your learning process is at least a couple lessons with a teacher. Madeline Monahan, she teaches virtually. Use her. But once you've done that, then you have the foundation for how to learn things from a recording, but you have to learn how to do that first in order to really sing it authentically. And you need to learn about linguistic expression from that culture. Even if you don't speak the language, you need to know enough about the expression to be able to breathe life into it. So yeah, talk to a human first when it comes to Shanos, always. Like, even more important than like having a voice teacher in general. If you want to learn Shanos, have a Shanos teacher, like first and foremost, for sure.
Okay, I see a bunch of questions in the comments. What I will say is we'll probably do the ones that are here and then wrap up.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you enjoy reading? What genre?
I don't love reading, if I'm perfectly honest. No, I didn't
know that about you.
I have always been an incredibly slow reader. I've never been diagnosed with dyslexia, but it takes me a long time to read something. Text in particular, I just have a really hard time with it. So reading is a slow process for me. But I do enjoy memoirs. I enjoy a good, like a well-written scientific self-help book. Um, I enjoy the occasional fantasy, like I enjoyed Harry Potter, but I don't enjoy that much fantasy. Um, yeah, fluffy. Like I consume books in the same way that I consume um, TV, which is I want it generally to make me feel good. Because there's a lot of other things in life that I consume that don't necessarily, and so
Mm.
I generally if I'm gonna do something that's already a little bit more difficult and that I already like less inherently as a form, then it needs to make me feel good. So,
That
or
is
feel things.
so interesting.
Yeah, because you're more of a reader, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up just like living in books. That was
Yeah,
very much my entire childhood.
yeah,
Like I probably read hundreds of books a year, especially when I was
yeah,
little.
yeah.
I mean, I definitely less so now because life, and I mean, it sucks that that is something that gets
Gets in the
sort of,
way.
yeah, it doesn't always take priority, and I know that I could prioritize it for sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I was on a kick probably like mid to end of last year of mystery novels and psychological
Mm,
thrillers,
nice.
which I love. I love brain teasers, specifically psychological brain teasers. I also really love fantasy.
Mm,
I'd say those are probably my top two genres.
nice.
And I mean, I like, if I'm going to read nonfiction, I really like psychology based nonfiction.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's more sort of, I mean, I find psychology to be incredibly interesting. So whether it's a fictional like psychological thriller or it's actually something about the way that like
Brains work.
people's
Yeah.
brains work, like oh god, there was this book I read probably like 6 years ago now called The Wisdom of Your Cells, which is sort of about like the mind body
Ooh.
connection, that was very cool.
Oh, I've
um
heard of that book. I really want to read it.
it's really good. But yeah, I think I definitely like reading. I wish I could read more
Yeah.
fantasy, mystery, psychological, very much my vein.
Nice.
um let's see, do you have any tips for finding your people?
Ooh, that's a really good
It's
question.
a really good question.
Shared interest is like the first thing fundamentally. Um, and to be honest, I've found so many of my people through my work, and I know that's kind of unique, and so my ability to answer this question is actually a little bit screwy. But I guess in that case, I would say don't be afraid of quote unquote networking. That was something I was terrified of, but like I very frequently just hire my friends and hire, people that I've met through my friends. And so, um, yeah, don't be afraid of like having a professional connection with somebody that can also be personal if you know how to navigate that, because those people have become my people. Um, and, and meet your friends. Like if there's like one person that you really, really like and they have other people, meet those people. You might really like those people. Like
Yeah.
that's really how my network has expanded like crazy. um and especially if you're in a new city, like attend meetups and events that could be fun.
Yeah.
That's like a big one. That like for me, I have a vocal jam group locally here that um was critical for my like personal development and my artistic development and the community that I've created here in New York. So yeah, don't be afraid to like go into situations where there's already like a shared interest that you know is there,
Yeah.
because that way you might meet some people.
I think, yeah, this is something that I've actually really struggled with a lot in my adult life. Specifically, I moved to Boston for a job, what, 6 years ago now? I don't know. My sense of time is completely just bleh. Um, but when I moved, I didn't know anyone. I didn't have friends. I also was very anxious at the prospect of, like going to a meetup or something like that. And
It's hard. Yeah.
I spent a long time being very lonely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. My first couple weeks in New York. Well, no, first couple months in New York were even though I saw people, incredibly lonely.
And like bizarrely, I think, well, first of all, I'm incredibly lucky that my husband collects people.
Yes.
and
Yes.
collects good people.
Yeah.
So I now, like, a lot of people that Ben is close with have become some of my best friends because
Yeah.
he,
Same.
yeah,
My loved ones are also people collectors,
yeah,
and I hold those people. I hold the people in my life who are people collectors very close because
yes,
I know I'm going to meet very good people through them. You know.
yes.
Yeah.
But then also, and I know, like, Melinda, you have done a bit of this, but going to, like, rock climbing gyms
Yes.
is
Yeah.
a very good place to meet people,
Yeah.
because the people who go and like rock climbing are smart and they like problem solving, because that's what it is. It's physical,
Right.
but it's also mental.
Mhm.
So it's, and not that everyone who goes to a rock climbing gym is like going to be your best friend, but I've had much
No.
more luck meeting people who are interesting and fun and are people who I'd want to hang out with outside of the gym at a rock climbing gym than I have at like a regular, going to lift weights type of workout environment.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Find the environments where you might meet interesting people,
yeah.
and just go there. You know, even if nothing happens, it's still like you still have a nice time. You know.
All right. Melinda, I was planning a trip to New York in September. Any chance you have a gig?
Maybe.
Right answer.
I cannot say right now, but I will soon. I promise.
And I think we have two more questions. One of them is, I believe, from my friend Bree, asking if we're going to do more streams at Europe friendly hours. Short answer, yes, because
Ew.
we've done a couple. We did one on Monday at 3 p.m. This is our second 3 p.m. stream. I would like to do more of these. It is difficult because they need to be smaller groups of people who have the flexibility to do Europe friendly streams.
Yes.
And it's, especially because like a lot of the people who are on our channel have full-time jobs, 9 to 5. But we are hoping to, and it might not be like an every week thing, but hopefully it will be more consistent. And then the last question, do you have any suggestions on if you have trouble focusing, especially for writing or general writing tips?
Um. uh. I let myself not focus. I don't necessarily, but I also have the luxury of doing that. And that I can, and also like deadlines are helpful to me. I am a procrastinator,
Yeah.
and I know that deadlines are helpful, and I do like a good last push. Um, so knowing that about myself and allowing myself to not focus and like find natural motivation, like following my own curiosity until it leads back to the thing that I want to do. I think, yeah, giving yourself permission to like lose yourself for a second is actually okay.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing something creative. Like you can't force that. If you're like, I'm gonna write this many pages of a novel today, I'm like, what? 9 times out of 10, a song comes to me in the middle of something, and I'm like, crap. And so yeah, I would say if your brain, when it comes to creativity, if your brain is trying not to be focused, it might be trying to tell you something. So yeah, follow your curiosity, and it's okay not to be focused, and focus is an arbitrary like capitalistic term anyway that like
Yeah.
wants a product, and if you're working on something creative in particular, like that's not ultimately the goal here. So yeah, if you can allow yourself to be to run with your lack of focus to see where it leads you, because it could surprise you, which is always a fun time. Otherwise, for me, when I really do have to like sit down and like make a thing because I have a deadline, um, I cook all my food in advance. I'll do a little bit of just like lying in bed, like chilling before that until my body can't lie in bed anymore, and then I go do the thing. Counting down from doing a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go do the thing. Yeah, just trying to set myself up as much as I can to be as focused as I can be. That's kind of all I do.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it's almost two different questions, because it's how do you write when it's writing for you, and then how do you write when it's writing for someone else or for a deadline. And
Oh
I
yeah.
think that those answers are, I mean, not that they said that, but this is the way that I'm thinking about it, is like there's two different answers for me.
Yeah, there are.
Because
Yeah.
the first answer is, it makes me actually think of that scene in BoJack Horseman, where Diane is realizing that like this like really intense emotional memoir that she wants to write just isn't what is bringing her joy to write. Like she's writing these like silly mystery books that are doing really well. And she's like, but if I can't write my memoir now, like when will I ever be able to write it? And the response is sort of, maybe you don't need to.
Yeah. Maybe you don't need to, or when it happens. You know? Yeah.
So I think it's important that you don't ever feel like you need to write something profound or that you need to write something groundbreaking, and that if you are writing for yourself, writing what brings you joy and writing what comes to you in that moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not feeling like it, and also not feeling like that has to be anything, you know?
Yeah, completely. I think the other side of that, as someone who does for a living write, I chunk it, because also I have ADHD. So like this works for me. This might not work for someone else, but I will be like, okay, so say that I have to write like 10 pages. I write a page, and I did this actually last week. I would write a page and I would do a 10-minute workout, and then I would write a page and I would do a 10-minute workout, and I would write a page and I would do it until I got to like 40 minutes of working out, which is like an average for what I would do. Nice. And then it was done.
Oh, I might try that. I'm editing a massive project right now. I might try that as I edit.
It was really nice because it gives you the brain breaks, and you can be physical. And like, obviously, like if working out isn't for you, take a break and play a round of a video game, or take a break and do whatever it is that brings you joy in that moment.
Yeah. I love that. I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Malinda, for hopping on. We will be back here in 3 hours and 10 minutes to play some Dungeons and Dragons. So hopefully some of you will come back. Bree, I know that that's unreasonably late for you, so I don't expect to see you. But everyone else, if you are in the country, that would be lovely to see you again.
Come see me really suck at playing D&D. It'll be a great time.
It'll be great. And thank you so much, chat, for being so lovely and engaged and asking really good questions and just generally being wonderful humans.
Thank you, Hannah. That's really nice.
All right. So we'll see you guys in a couple hours.
Great. See y'all soon.